Imagine a hot day in Jerusalem, the sun shining intensely, and the stone streets vibrating with the bustling city. Jesus, the itinerant rabbi who spoke with divine authority, was teaching in the temple. His followers and curious onlookers formed a tight circle around him, eager for his words. Suddenly, the calm was disrupted by a group of scribes and Pharisees pushing a terrified woman into the center of the scene. "Rabbi," one of the leaders shouted, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses commands us to stone her." "What do you say?" The crowd held its breath. It was a trap, a test to catch Jesus in contradiction. Instead of answering immediately, Jesus did something entirely unexpected. He bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. Murmurs increased. What was he doing? Every move of Jesus was laden with purpose and mystery. What could it mean to write in the dust of the temple, amidst tension and judgment? Stay with us and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any updates. As we unravel the profound significance of this intriguing and revealing moment, we'll explore why Jesus chose to write on the ground and the impact of this simple yet powerful gesture. The story is just beginning. To understand the depth of what was happening, we need to go back in time and delve into the historical and cultural context of Jerusalem at that time. The law of Moses was clear and severe, especially regarding adultery. The penalties were harsh and judgments swift. The scribes and Pharisees were zealous guardians of this law, using it as a means to maintain their power and control over the people. In first-century Jewish society, women had a lower status and were often victims of harsh public judgments. The situation of the woman brought before Jesus was a stark reflection of this reality. She stood there, humiliated and vulnerable, being used as a pawn in a carefully planned trap against Jesus. The religious leaders were not just seeking justice. They wanted to put Jesus in an impossible position. If he said to follow the law and stone her, he would lose his reputation for mercy and compassion. If he said to let her go, he would be accused of disrespecting the law of Moses. It was a test of his wisdom and authority. And there, amid the mounting tension, Jesus continued to write on the ground, his seemingly simple gesture laden with a meaning that was yet to be revealed. The crowd held their breath, eyes fixed on Jesus, eager for his response. The scribes and Pharisees were determined to trap him, their expressions filled with malicious anticipation. The woman, shrinking in shame and fear, awaited the verdict that could seal her fate. Jesus looked up, meeting the accusers with a calm that starkly contrasted the tension around him. "Let him who is without sin among you," he said, his serene voice cutting through the silence like a blade, "be the first to throw a stone at her." Then he bent down again and continued writing on the ground. The moment was electric. The scribes and Pharisees, so confident moments before, now seemed disarmed. Jesus' words struck them like a lightning bolt of introspection. Slowly, one by one, they began to withdraw, starting with the older ones, burdened with more accumulated sins over their lives. The sound of stones falling from their hands echoed through the space, mingling with the confused murmurs of the crowd. The woman, still trembling, looked at Jesus with eyes full of surprise and hope. Jesus rose one last time and looked at her. "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, Lord," she replied, her voice trembling, but filled with gratitude. "Neither do I condemn you," Jesus said. "Go, and from now on sin no more." With these words, he not only saved her life, but also offered a new chance, a new hope, a fresh start. The crowd dispersed, carrying with them an unforgettable lesson in compassion, justice, and humility. Jesus, with a serene and profound gaze, watched as the accusers withdrew, their consciences weighing heavier than the stones they carried. He then turned his attention back to the ground, continuing to write in the dusty earth. But what was he writing? This mysterious gesture, seemingly simple, left everyone perplexed. Some scholars believe he was writing the sins of the accusers, a silent list of their own transgressions, forcing them to confront their hypocrisy. Others suggest he was simply drawing lines, symbolizing the transience of human accusations before divine eternity. Regardless of what he wrote, the act itself was a powerful display of control and wisdom. Jesus did not respond with anger or despair. He did not succumb to the Pharisees' provocation. Instead, he chose a path that left them speechless and opened space for reflection and self-critique. The silence of Jesus, punctuated only by the sound of his fingers tracing the earth, spoke louder than any sermon. He showed that true justice is neither rushed nor vengeful, but thoughtful and compassionate. He reminded everyone that before God, we are all sinners in need of forgiveness. This moment, so simple yet so profound, echoed in the hearts of all present, leaving an indelible mark on history and the faith of millions across centuries. Jesus' gesture of stooping to write on the ground carried deep and multifaceted symbolism. In a world where words and actions were scrutinized and interpreted meticulously, this simple act of drawing in the earth challenged conventional understanding. For some, Jesus was mirroring the divine act of inscribing the 10 Commandments on stone, reminding the accusers of the sanctity of the law they themselves were distorting. By writing on the ground, he emphasized the frailty and impermanence of human accusations compared to the eternity of divine justice. Others interpret the gesture as a way to allow time for anger and tension to diminish, enabling the crowd to reflect on their own shortcomings before passing judgment on others. This moment of forced reflection that Jesus created was crucial in dissipating imminent violence. There is also a more personal and intimate interpretation. By stooping and writing on the ground, Jesus positioned himself at the woman's level, not looking down on her like her accusers, but standing beside her in her humiliation and pain. This act of silent solidarity conveyed a powerful message of compassion and empathy. The exact meaning of what Jesus wrote may remain a mystery, but the impact of his gesture is undeniable. He transformed a moment of harsh judgment into an opportunity for grace and reflection. The writing on the ground became a symbol of divine mercy, reminding all of us that in the face of our failures, compassion and reflection should prevail over condemnation. While Jesus wrote on the ground, The words he uttered echoed in the minds of the accusers. "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." Those words struck their hearts like a hammer, shattering their convictions and exposing the hypocrisy of their actions. The scribes and Pharisees, proud and confident in their righteousness, felt the weight of truth crashing down upon them. They looked at each other, perplexed and uncomfortable, each reflecting on their own failures and sins. The crowd, initially eager for a spectacle of swift and brutal justice, began to grasp the depth of Jesus' words. One by one, the accusers began to withdraw. The elders were the first to leave, perhaps because their longer lives had accumulated more sins to consider. Their hands, which moments earlier had tightly held the stones of judgment, now let them fall to the ground, acknowledging the truth in Jesus' words. The ensuing silence was deafening. The woman, who moments before had been on the brink of death, now stood alone with Jesus. Her accusers dispersed, defeated not by force, but by introspection and awakened conscience. Jesus, still kneeling, continued to write on the ground, indifferent to the fleeing accusers. He knew that the true battle had been won not with words of condemnation, but with an invitation to reflection and repentance. And thus, the power of forgiveness and divine mercy manifested in a sublime and transformative manner. Jesus' gesture and words resonated deeply, not only on that day, but throughout the centuries, offering spiritual lessons that continue to transform lives. In that moment, Jesus not only saved a life, but also imparted a powerful teaching on the true meaning of justice and mercy. Firstly, Jesus showed that God's justice does not rush to condemn. He taught that each person must look inward, acknowledge their own sins and weaknesses before judging others. This introspection promotes humility, reminding us that we are all flawed and in need of divine grace. Moreover, Jesus' act of writing on the ground revealed the importance of patience and reflection. Instead of impulsively reacting to external pressures, he created space for everyone present to reflect on their actions and attitudes. This deliberate pause teaches us the importance of not acting hastily, but taking time to consider our responses in light of compassion and wisdom. The forgiveness granted to the adulterous woman also highlighted the transformative power of divine love. Jesus not only spared her condemnation, but invited her to a new life. Go and sin no more. This call to change and grow is a manifestation of the belief that no one is beyond redemption and that everyone can start anew. Finally, the story underscores the idea that true spiritual authority resides in the ability to love and forgive. Jesus challenged social and religious norms, demonstrating that God's power is most fully expressed in mercy and unconditional love. These spiritual lessons, encapsulated in the simple act of writing on the ground, continue to inspire and guide Jesus' followers, reminding us of the depth of divine compassion and the importance of living with grace and forgiveness. The actions and words of Jesus during this episode not only deeply touched those present, but also opened a vast field of theological reflection that has resonated through the centuries. The way Jesus approached the situation revealed profound truths about the nature of God and the essence of the gospel. Firstly, Jesus' act of writing on the ground and his decision not to condemn the woman highlight divine grace. This event vividly illustrates the central message of Christianity, that God offers forgiveness and new opportunities to all, regardless of past sins. It is a clear manifestation that mercy triumphs over judgment. Additionally, the episode challenges traditional understandings of justice. Jesus did not nullify the law of Moses, but fulfilled it in a way that emphasizes restorative justice over retributive justice. He showed that true justice goes beyond mere punishment and seeks the restoration of the individual. This calls Christians to see justice as an opportunity for healing and reconciliation, not merely retribution. Jesus' attitude also offers a model of spiritual leadership and authority. He used his power to protect and uplift a vulnerable person rather than condemn her. This challenges religious leaders to exercise their power with humility and compassion, reflecting God's character. Furthermore, this event underscores the importance of self-criticism and humility. By inviting the accusers to reflect on their own sins before judging others, Jesus promoted the culture of humility and self-examination essential for a healthy spiritual community. Finally, the episode is a powerful reminder of the importance of unconditional love. Jesus' treatment of the adulterous woman demonstrates that God's love knows no bounds and that everyone is worthy of love and compassion, regardless of past mistakes. This is at the heart of the gospel, an invitation to live a life marked by grace, compassion, and forgiveness. These theological implications continue to influence and inspire the Christian faith, providing a powerful guide on how to live out and practice the teachings of Jesus in a world still grappling with issues of justice, mercy, and compassion.